Good evening. Welcome to Acadia After Dark. I'm your host, Reverend Redbeard. Good to be with y'all this evening. It's been a busy week trying to get ready for the holidays, so I've been doubling up on episodes and trying to get ahead of things. So I posted on the threads earlier, and it's gonna just for another reminder here at the beginning. Next week's episode will be pre-recorded, so there will be no live edition, but we'll do something else instead, probably on the weekend. It'll be a long one for most of us in the United States. Will be either doing holiday stuff or whatever. I don't think there'll be a lot of podcasts listening anyway, so it's fine. New episode coming up Monday. It's gonna be a fun one. I think people will like it. These first few episodes, at least while we're getting started, anyways, my goal is for each episode to be a little bit better than the last. So if the first few were okay, I'm hoping within another few we'll really have something going. Uh, Spectre Moose one was really fun. That's a fun cryptid. I enjoy the stories that go around with it. It's one of those ones that has like tons of folk stories from loggers around the campfires and stuff. It's really kind of what my favorite type of storytelling is, anyways. It's a fearsome critter, as they may say. I heard about it. Interestingly enough, pretty much anytime you look up like state by state cryptids, right? Almost always Maine is listed as a specter moose, but people here in Maine, I don't know a single person that ever heard of the legend. So it's kind of odd to me. That is not to say it's not told around here. It's just I don't personally know anybody that knows it. Which means I need to increase my circle of friends. But nonetheless, we had some pretty cool ones that came up. I've got some ideas from that episode actually that are going to lead into another later episode, but I'm going to hold off on that one because I feel like it deserves a lot more research than what I've had time to do now. Um, Same deal with next week's episode. I'm doing next week's episode as a catch-all, kind of what I've been starting to do, at least early on, anyways. Is I want to do just a story-based video each week, and then the following um podcast be more casual. But eventually I want to get it to be where I do the story-based videos, and then we're able to do a little more interviews, exploratory stuff, things like that with them afterwards, which I'm working on. I the case I'm going over next week, I was trying to find some audio for it, because I know there is audio somewhere. It's just a matter of figuring out who has it and where that is. Because unfortunately, when you're in Maine, there's only so many 911 call centers, and a lot of them uh, didn't really fully digitize stuff until later on. And we're trying to figure out where certain calls might have gone. But that's for another day. Anyways, yeah, the Spectre Moose. We had, well, there was a lot of cool stories on it. I wanted to find more graphics of the actual story that they were telling, and some of them, like the quote at the beginning, I thought was really neat. From that magazine article that I was able to read, but I was not able to actually find the article, unfortunately, which feels like a kind of one of those things. If I had just taken more time, I would have probably been able to find it somewhere. If I could get a hold of somebody in the, in a library in North Dakota. I'm sure it's available. Which is two things that I need now is funding and time, which I'm working on trying to get the time. Funding will take time to come, but we'll get there eventually. The more time I have, the more energy I can put into finding that. So we'll be all right. Yeah, but yeah, almost a 220-year-old legend, 1891. So yeah, quite old. I won't say it's our oldest cryptid. That's the funny thing about it is we actually have one of the earliest Sasquatch reports in the country was in Maine, but we're better known not for that, but for a moose. And the moose is pretty terrifying in some of the stories. Like the one at the end where what was it? That the last long story that I was able to find, I wasn't able to find a date for it. Now, the implication of it being that it must have been, I would say, sometime in the probably 1920s, but I wasn't able to put an actual date to it. But the story where the moose actually came back into the camp was really cool and terrifying. And probably at first, the earliest stories, it was very obviously just a large white moose, which we do have. They're rare. They're a unicorn basically, but they do have them. But then you have these reports as it went on, you know, 20, 30 years. They're like, well, this is obviously not the same moose, so maybe it's a descendant, but it keeps getting bigger every time the story's told. And then by the time you get into the 1920s, all of a sudden this moose is like 15 feet tall and able to, like, disappear in the fog and like run so fast that you can't even see it when it is like running through the woods. All these crazy things. Being impervious to damage was kind of an ongoing thing for a lot of them, is that people would shoot it and it either wouldn't affect it at all, or if it did affect it, it didn't stop it and it would just continue to either charge them. In a lot of the stories, it would charge them until they like hid, and then it would just immediately leave. It usually didn't stick around. There was one story I found. What was that? I want to say there was one story that was in the early 1920s, probably like 1922 or something like that. I don't have it right with me, but uh, yeah, there was one story where the hunter that he was actually chasing did end up hiding from it, and then it just circled him for like he said as much of a half an hour, and then eventually it wandered away. But most of the other accounts, it was pretty much as soon as somebody, if you hid, it would just jump over them or run around them and then run off into the woods, potentially just being injured and then running off. Which I just knowing that there is areas of like Canada and other places that have like high populations of albino moose, albino deer, things like that, it's not out of the question that there was just a one, albino bull moose was able to breed and there was a bunch of offspring from it. Now the odds of them all surviving and there being a number of them that would last for 50 years, um, it's possible. Not common, but it is possible. We had albino deer on the island here, but that thing only really I think it might have bred for, one time, didn't produce any albino offspring, and then it died. So that was the last one of them I saw on the island. That's 11, 12 years ago. So again, it's not impossible. I just feel like it's unlikely it was the same one. So then you get into the legends that seem more supernatural, and why can't there be ghost animals, right? Or why can't there be forest spirits and things like that? If we're going to go ahead and say that there's human spirits or other types of entities, why couldn't one manifest as a moose? think that would be pretty fitting, actually. If you've ever seen a moose, just a normal moose is an incredibly imposing figure, so I can definitely see how that would turn into something that a forest deity would definitely inhabit that sort of a form. I would. We've all seen the old depictions of like deer gods and things like that. A moose is far larger than a deer in most cases. It would make sense. Yeah, this whole episode was pretty much just like stories because I kind of want to focus on that the next few. It's more just telling the stories that you know tells the legend more. Um, the Christopher Packard book that I quoted and Mythical Creatures of Maine, I picked that up a few months ago this summer actually, and incredible read, definitely worth checking out if you're into the stuff that I'm talking about. He covers a lot of the fearsome critters and things like that that I think everybody is familiar with at least a few of them, and a lot of them are like northeast Pacific, you know, northeast like Atlantic side, like loggers, and then like mining stories from out in the Pacific coast. And some of them are pretty creative, and a lot of them I'm gonna go over the ones from Maine at least. But some people that covered, he mentioned it once in his Wendigoon there mentioned it once in one of his videos, but that was just the fearsome critters one. And I don't think he actually covered anything about it. I think he just pretty much said this cool cryptid and then moved on. But I thought it was a neat story. I think that there's going to be a lot of um, people that when you look up Maine stuff, it's not uncommon to see a lot of other cryptids first, but this one feels the most Maine to me, which is kind of what I was going for, and this whole show is all about. So either way, we're gonna keep on that trend because I have another one. Like Maine has its own version of a Sasquatch that I've never heard of a version of it like it elsewhere in the world, but nobody talks about it. I'm gonna cover it on one of the later episodes. Just want to do some more research on that because if I can get if I can get interviews with certain somebody that's local to me about it, that would be pretty cool. Or if I could find some audio of him talking about him, because I'm sure he has talked about him. I heard a lecture of him speaking about it a few years back, so he's definitely familiar. Either way, yeah. So the Spectre Moose was fun. Next week, I'm gonna be talking about the Palmyra Wolves case in Maine and Dogman. So that'll be a cool one. I'm excited to cover those. I know that the Palmyra Wolves case is very fun. This main story, relatively recent, 2006, so that'll be cool. Looking forward to it. I know Mr. Ballin has covered it. Lore Lodge talked about it. I think a lot of people have covered it before, but I felt like it was a really interesting case, and where it's so local to me, it felt like it was appropriate. Yeah. So, anyways, what about them UFOs? We had a whole UAP hearing last week, and I was watching it the other night. I had a lot of thoughts, but I don't want to play the full footage from anything because, well, honestly, some of it just doesn't deserve the full footage because there was a lot of just nonsense, unfortunately. And to be truthful, I think that every person involved in the hearings on the congressional side of things, save for like maybe one or two people, is probably the worst people you could have had in charge of this stuff right now. I would just say that right out. Left or right doesn't matter. But as far as the way they're approaching the entire thing, if we're talking about finally having the government have full disclosure, this is not the time to be making this about you. It's not the time to be making it about your politics and taking this as your chance to get a vulnerable moment and all this stuff, because that's what it's all about with these politicians now, is they just want to have that soundbite, they just want to have that clip, and they're just manipulating everybody for it at this point. And it's just sickening when it's something that a lot of us have waited years for the government to openly discuss, and then it's turning into a clown show. um, I hear a lot of people online talking about, oh well, yeah, they announced that aliens are real, but nobody cared. And it's like, well, first of all, they didn't announce aliens were real. They announced that UAPs are a thing that they're aware of, um, and a lot of other stuff that is interesting. But nobody was listening to that stuff because they want the sensationalism. They want the romanticized conspiracies of it. They don't want to hear the truthfulness. Now, since I mean, even as far as that's concerned, like since when did we expect the government was going to be open and truthful with us about the existence of aliens? I don't know. But when are we going to realize that if they're going to have this out there in front of us, of course they're going to have it be like a circus. They don't want it to be a serious discussion, so they're going to have the clown show that the other day was. I hope that we don't get. I don't know. It was frustrating to watch at points because some of these people just. It's quite obvious what they're doing. I'm just seriously sick of everybody in government right now. Not to get into the politics of it, but nonetheless, there was a couple of clips that I definitely felt were worthwhile checking out. Here's two of the most important ones right here. Okay, so the first one I'll show you. Mind you, Threads view is awful for audio and video, but here I'll give you this one real quick.
Do you believe, just for the record, that the federal government, any part of the federal government, is knowingly concealing evidence about UAPs from the public?
Yes, sir.
100%. Yes.
What do you believe UAPs could be or are?
Strong evidence that they are non-human, higher intelligence.
I echo my colleague's comment, sir.
Genuinely do not know.
Don't know, but we must find out. Do you believe?
So that I felt like was probably the biggest takeaway from the entire thing. All four people that testified on this particular occasion all said that they believe that the government is hiding information that they have about the existence of UAPs, UFOs, whatever we want to call it. I think the UAPs is definitely the more appropriate thing at this point. UFO is obviously a bit of an outdated term. It's not PC anymore, right? Nonetheless, though, we have a lot of other stuff that they've been talking about. That's like, we have so many reports of stuff in the water that even the aerial phenomena is not really covering all of it anymore, is it really? I mean, then we have this clip here, right? So
some object.
This is another one that I
The area
found.
was well lit. He saw a black.
Here again,
Three
I
cases
wish
that
that
merit
Threads
analysis
was
that
a
we're
little
looking
better
at right
for
now. One
audio
might
and
be in
video
the
too.
process of resolving, but nonetheless is still interesting. The first one was brought to us by a law enforcement officer out west, where he observed a large orange orb floating several hundred feet above the ground a couple miles away. He went to investigate what was going on with that orb. And as he was pulling up to the location where he thought would be below the orb, about 40 to 60 meters away from some object the area was well lit. He saw a blacker than black object. He said it was about the size of a Prius, 4 to 6 feet wide. And as he got 40 to 60 meters away from the object, it tilted up about 45 degrees, and then it shot up vertically. He says 10 to 100 times faster than any drone he's ever seen before. And it did that without making a sound, as far as he could tell from inside of his vehicle. And just as it left his field of view through his windshield, then it emitted very bright red and blue lights that illuminated the inside of his vehicle as brightly as if someone had set off fireworks just outside of his vehicle, or street flares. So
yeah, I'm glad that we're discussing this stuff openly now in government and congressional hearings. That's very good. I want more of this sort of testimony. to be coming out. Because if the government is talking about this stuff and we're not hearing it internally, I'm at least glad that there's some people that are out there and talking about it. Unfortunately, I wish it wasn't these people. Because
the results of which may see the American government open up about extraterrestrial activities.
Arrow and the Pentagon have broken
So
the law by
obviously-
not revealing a significant body of information about UAPs, including military intelligence databases that have evidence of their existence as physical craft.
Number 10.
Yeah.
Nancy Mace blasts the Department of Defense.
So this is part of what I was talking about earlier. Because when you have this going on, this just turns this whole thing into just political grandstanding and things like that. And that's not what this hearing should be about, in my opinion. I don't care who's doing it, because there's one at the end too that's pretty egregious, and I just get tired of this. Because there's 3 examples specifically.
Intelligence has been interacting with humanity. This interaction is not new, and it's been ongoing, and there are unelected people in the government that are aware of that.
Spearheaded by the Committee on Oversight and Accountability, the November 13th, 2024 hearing on UAPs, entitled Unidentified Anomalous Phenomena, Exposing the Truth, got off to a fiery start, courtesy of outspoken Republican Congresswoman.
See, when we make it about who it is that's saying it instead of the content of what they're saying,
Advanced technologies,
big
not
problem.
our government or any other government, are monitoring sensitive military installations around the globe. Furthermore, the U.S. is in possession of UAP technologies, as are some of our adversaries.
Author and media personality.
This isn't new. This was stated in the last hearing. It was at least it was stated, but they didn't have a lot to back it up. And still here, I will say, he's saying a lot of stuff. He's not physically providing evidence to back it up, aside from his own testimony, right? So keep that in mind with any of this, because if there's not physical evidence, there should be. For a lot of this stuff that they're saying, somebody has physical evidence. That's not a question in my mind.
As Americans have met other challenges, we can restore our faith in our government institutions.
Number 8.
So yeah, this was part that I was...
of creating a culture of suppression and intimidation over the topic.
To the incoming administration and Congress, I say to you, we need immediate public transparency. And this hearing is an important step on that journey. If we approach the UAP topic in the same way as we, as Americans, have met other challenges, we can restore our faith in our government institutions.
I don't know. The last few significant challenges we've had as a country, we did not handle well, in my opinion. So we'll keep away from that. Here's another one. USO. Depending on where these ones are going.
The government is not being transparent about what it knows about unidentified anomalous phenomena, UAP, formerly called UFOs.
It was filmed from a helicopter. Then halfway through the video, the person said the orb is joined by another orb that briefly comes into the frame from the left before rapidly moving again out of the frame.
To his point, Schellenberger shared several examples from a whistleblower's report that described several confounding military encounters with supposed UAPs.
Yeah. Now, the other one that we had here...
revealed that he had been informed of a, quote, 3-minute-long high-definition...
Now, if they can show more of the audio and video in this video, it'd be a lot better. But there's not... They didn't prevent a lot of new evidence. They haven't declassified anything new as far as I know. They're asking for more transparency, which is great.
Put us on a list.
We should be getting more transparency. Here's another person that just pretty much used this to make themselves a viral moment and then moved on. And again, there was too much of that throughout this entire hearing. You can see the times that they were, there were certain things that were said that just really rubbed me the wrong way, and I feel like we're delegitimizing what the actual testimony is saying, and that should be the focus of all this.
Declined to divulge the nature of any of his sources, but confirmed that they are either present or former U.S. government officials.
I think that what the American people need to know is that the U.S. military and intelligence community are sitting on a huge amount of visual and other information, still photos, video photos, other...
So, can't confirm or release the information of who his sources are, but Yeah, trust me, bro.
Sensor information, and they have for a very long time. And it's not those fuzzy photos and videos that we've been given. There's very clear
High res.
images, high resolution.
Number 4, Michael Gold keeps it light.
The NASA brand is synonymous with hope.
This guy was
and
cool.
optimism.
I actually thought he was
Before I
funny.
walk down the National
I would
Mall,
love to hear more of
you'll
him.
see the NASA logo on T-shirts, hats, and bumper stickers. Few federal agencies enjoy this kind of popularity. I've never seen anyone wearing an Office of Personnel Management T-shirt.
He's right.
Stark contrast to Elizondo and
Fuck that office personal management. Fuck 'em. Nah, they, I'm sure they have important jobs, but it's a valid point, though.
Rear Admiral
I mean, people
described
expect
his involvement with the Go Fast.
NASA to be a conspiracy, and, I mean, they're probably one of the most forward-facing government agencies that I could think of, and they don't do a lot nowadays. Aside from the stuff with SpaceX, honestly, you know, they're not as well funded as they used to be, that's for
Gold
sure.
testified that an email containing the video had been scrubbed from his account as well as the accounts of other officials to whom he
This one was
The
wild.
very next day, that email disappeared from my account and those of the other recipients without explanation. Moreover, the
Your IT department can do that very easily. Most people would recognize that as, yeah, it's definitely shady, but the fact that it was leaked anyways makes me wonder, because they declassified it after the fact. So they tried to deny it, tried to wipe it, and then it came out anyways. I feel like that's going to be a common trend with a lot of this stuff, honestly.
commander of Fleet Forces Command and the operations officer never discussed the subject. Even during weekly meetings specifically designed to address issues affecting exercises like the one in which the Theodore Roosevelt Strike Group was participating.
Number 2,
I'm just imagining doing stretch break or something and being like, so, boss, what's up with the UFO there? Like, I don't know if that was exactly how they were going about it, but it feels like that was probably not going to be the time for them to be asking this stuff. And when they say, like, oh, it was never addressed formally, that they had removed, I don't know. Honestly, like, it doesn't surprise me they would do that in the least. This is why I'm thinking that a lot of this stuff is either a red herring or it's just kind of already past this point, if that makes any sort of sense. Because, like, how much of this stuff, this guy, oh god, yeah, how much of this stuff do we see that they're coming out with now that is from years and years and years gone by, declassified stuff that honestly is so vague at this point that until they're willing to put actual resources into it, and I kind of do hope they will, because this might, I'm not thinking these hearings are going to jumpstart any serious investigations by the agencies, but it's good if it gets public interest, they'll have to at least do something. And that's my only hope with all this. But anyways, yeah, this guy.
My hat on for a second. You said you signed a document. Love that. Who gave that to you?
The U.S. government, sir.
Okay.
I don't like lawyers. This guy's a lifetime lawyer. And he pretty much spent the entire hearing that I saw just trying to tear everything down and delegitimize it. So you have the people that are making it a clown show for viral moments. And then you this guy who thinks that the entire thing is a clown show and is treating it as such.
You have a copy of it?
It is stored in the SCIF right now. I do not have possession of it. The U.S. government does.
What department of the U.S. government gave you this document?
I will say the Department of Defense. Unfortunately, I can't say in this forum much more than that.
Overall, members of the public who were hungry for drama or earth-shattering
Yep. So, as you can see, it wasn't the big revelations we had all hoped, but
Can you talk a little more about the unidentified aerial phenomena and one of the accusations? It's not in the
so this is from the Pentagon press conference after the fact. Now, mind you, they just the other day announced that they failed their 7th audit in a row. big surprise to anybody that's been paying attention, because I think we all knew something was up. They've been losing a lot of money. And that's what initiated these hearings, is that we're supposed to be having government accountability and finding out where all of our tax dollars are going, which I'm all for, right? But we also know that our government's military budget is overly inflated. And sorry again, if you're over the political talk, I get it. It's right after the election. But guess what? Everything's political. You gotta learn to talk about it. If you can't, grow up. I don't know what to tell you. Anyways, Pentagon spokesperson.
That the department has within storage the remains of aliens or signs of life from elsewhere. Can you settle that once and for all? Do you or don't you have such remains?
Yeah, so I'm not aware of any remains that the department has of any signs of extraterrestrial beings or activity or technology.
This one lady was not made aware. She hasn't personally seen the bodies.
And I'm sorry, what was your second question or your first question?
Well, it's really about that, and then also what the top line finding in this report.
So the report, again, was briefed to staff, and committee members were notified about the report. Part of this annual report submitted to Congress is accountability. And
yep, that's the word of the day: accountability. In other news, another fun one.
Show your daughter how much you love her with this.
Let's mute that. Y'all want to see a literal demon? We're too cheap to buy the premium subscription. But check out this actual demon. I'm muting it. But Kenneth Copeland is an actual devil. I don't know what else to tell you. Every time I see a clip of him,
Kenneth Copeland.
That's all I can think. It's an actual demon in the flesh.
Style. But here, his expressions and gestures appear to be distorted in a way some viewers find deeply unsettling.
The more we learn.
Like, what's with the eyes?
This covenant of God. Don't ever do it. Don't ever feel sorry for yourself. Don't ever do it.
This continues.
Seriously, what is with the eyes, yo? This.
And we have a healing covenant. What blood?
I've seen. The more I see of this guy, the more convinced. Like, I'm an ordained minister, but I'm also non-denomination, and I don't necessarily believe in the devil. But at the same time, when I see this dude, I can't help but think that there's gotta be something possessing that, because that ain't normal. That's you just look at those eyes. There was this clip, and I'll have to find it sometime and try and post it, because there was this one clip where he was flipping out on this reporter. I can't remember where it was. They asked him about when he was flying on a jet, and his eyes turned like, he looked like The Mask. You know, the end of the movie The Mask? He looked like that guy when he put on the mask, and he puts his finger in his face and he's pointing at her, starts shouting at her about how, like, oh, he can't be in this plane with all these demons and stuff like that, because how could he go to preach and save the others? And, like, hey, believe what you want religiously. That's my one tenet, is that I don't tell other people how to worship. But I cannot look at this man and not think that there is an actual literal demon from hell inhabiting that body. I mean, just look at this. Just look at this.
The blood of this covenant, glory to God.
Some viewers believe he looks demonic.
He absolutely does.
In me, the pure, spotless blood of God. And Hesed was performed for me.
The video has reignited.
That is terrifying, right? And this next part is terrifying as well, for an entirely different reason. And I just want to show a quick clip of this, and then I'm going to tell you my own quick account. Because there's a particular part of this story that hit me like a truck. Okay? So check this. This man is going to account for his experience of doing salvia divinorum. Now, I had a couple of experiences with it when I was younger myself, and I'm surprised that stuff was legal for a while where I live. But the funny part of the entire thing is that they show one particular shot here. This guy talks about this story, and the story is crazy. He goes on a trip, long trip, right? So during his trip, he literally talks about how he lives out this whole period of his life, okay? And then at a certain point, he's talking about how the world like turned inside out on itself. And that struck me because that was something that stuck with me for my first time experiencing experimenting with this stuff, right? Was that I felt like the entire world turned in on itself. And then when I came out on the other side, I was in a different world. For me, it only lasted for a few seconds. This guy claims that it lasted for him for, I think he says 8 years, all right? So I'm going to play a quick bit of this because this was wild to me,
Well,
okay?
never forget. One that questioned everything he knew about time and memory.
Like right now, worried that what's going on, worried that I'm in a coma. Did I die? Is this limbo? You know, because I'm very.
Cantwell, a devoted family man and member of the Mormon Church in Alaska, mistakenly purchased salvia, thinking it was synthetic
Mistakenly.
marijuana. On Christmas Day, while his children played with their new toys and his wife prepared dinner, he tried it. Little did he know.
It's Christmas Day. You're sitting there with your kids. You think you're sparking up a bowl, and the next thing you know, you're in a different damn universe because that stuff hits you violently. I have no other expression for a salvia divinorum trip. It comes in different dosages. The dosage I did was only like I want to say an X30, which is not particularly high. And I went into another world. I don't know what this dude ended up with if he bought it on accident, but he was sitting there Christmas morning, he claims, and then goes into another universe. It's wild.
That a single hit would lead him to experience what felt like 8 years in another life. As Cantwell inhaled, the world around him began to dissolve.
I hit the bowl piece with a microtorch and just took the biggest hit that I could possibly do.
Suddenly, he felt himself.
That was a mistake. I I hit mine from a bong, and as soon as I put the lighter to it the first time, I saw the whole world go black around me and just focus in on the little cherry, the little burning embers in the middle of that bowl. And then I was gone. I don't remember what was physically happening after that. I was told after the fact, and someday I might recount the full story because it is funny. But yeah.
Pulled in what he could only describe as a swirling tunnel.
The floor, and the best way to describe it is I felt like my molecules and the molecules in the floor no longer had anything to do with each other.
When he finally surfaced, it wasn't in his Alaskan home. Instead, he found himself on the deck of a small boat, gasping.
So I don't know about the boat, but I do know what he means about feeling like your molecules melted into the floor. So I was on a bed when I experienced mine, and then I felt like I went into the bed and came out on the other side of the bed, but into another world. Okay, if that makes any sort of sense. Now, if you've ever tried salvia and had this experience, please let me know. Uh, if not, it's really weird that I hear another person that has the same feeling from it. Maybe it's a particular chemical gives you that feeling. I don't know. If any chemists hear this, please let me know if you know.
For air under the bright Texas sun.
I found myself on the deck of this little water skiing boat, coughing up water, and there were a bunch of guys surrounding me on the deck of this water ski boat.
As he regained his senses, he realized he was surrounded by 3 unfamiliar faces who expressed both relief and concern.
I didn't know any of these.
So yeah, the guy goes on, watch the rest of this video. It's cool. I'm not gonna watch the whole thing here anyways, but the guy goes on to explain how he literally went to another life for years. And you talk about simulated realities and things like that, but then you see stuff like that where you have people that will go into comas and they live out entire lives supposedly there. I've heard a couple of accounts. I haven't seen them documented properly, but I've heard that. Have this guy, which is not uncommon when you try hallucinogenic drugs to have experiences of different natures. Some people go to other, planets. Some people just gain empathy and understand that other humans feel things, whichever it happens to be. This one was a first to me because this one seems like this man really experienced this for years. He was living this other life, friends, family, the whole deal there, right? So you're in your house living with your family, and then all of a sudden, boom, you're in another life. What the fuck, right? So then you pick yourself up by your bootstraps and you decide, all right, I'm here now. I'm living this new life. And you put that on and you just go for it, right? And then you just get established there. You sit there, you went through, you did all the internal work to make it through that, figure it out. You make yourself a life here. You get your job, you get your family, you get your kids, etc., right? The way this guy described it, he had moments of where he would have like that sort of almost deja vu feeling. And then a particular thing snapped him out of it one day, and he just woke up back where he was in his old life. Now, you spend 8 years building a life, recuperating from all this, only to be ripped back into your original life again. How do you even go back to that, I mean, that seems like an absolutely insane thing for somebody to have to go through. And, the fact that it was brought on by a drug or legal, I don't know if it's still legal or not. Yeah, hold on. I'm actually curious. I am checking to see, is Salvia divinorum legal in Maine? Because I am very curious. Okay, so some states have imposed strict restrictions on Salvia divinorum, including Delaware, Louisiana, and Missouri, which have classified it as a Schedule 1 substance. Other states have imposed age restrictions, such as Maine, which prohibits the use or sale of Salvia divinorum to minors under the age of 18. Thank God, because my goodness, the damage that would do to an adolescent mind. Holy shit. I couldn't imagine. Because, okay, it used to be sold as an incense. I don't know why or how they thought that anybody was going to use that as an incense or a potpourri ingredient. But holy shit. And if you are so inclined, it's legal here in Maine for people the age of 18 and up, and bring a friend because you are going to need one. But yeah, so definitely look up the full video or just go watch Slapdam Callan's video. Is really good on this. He does a pretty good job of narrating and explaining some of the stuff that cuts out some of the fatty parts. I'm working now on trying to get the technology to be able to get my own clips. That is my next goal. So, any of my tech savvy friends, if you can reach out to me and help me out with that, because I am not the most tech savvy. Setting up this podcast is approaching my upper limit, and I am not afraid or ashamed to say when I need help. So, for my future content creation endeavors, if I have people that know how to make this podcast better, I appreciate you if you reach out to me. It's not required, it's just appreciated. Anyways, that was pretty much it for this week's agenda, the main stuff that I had on the plan. It's been a week. Like I said, next video out on Monday, we're going to be talking about the Palmyra werewolves, the Palmyra wolves case. And I'm super excited about that because we have a lot of dogman sightings in Maine. But that's definitely the most famous and the most intriguing one. The next one after that will be it'll be a little more of a compilation video, sort of little bits and pieces of multiple cases. This week's live stream on Thursday will be pre-recorded. We're not going to be doing it live. I'm going to just post a new episode of the podcast. You'll find that up on your streaming platforms Thursday night as usual. I appreciate everybody that just keeps the show going. Spotify, I've seen a few people listening. I would love it if you could rate and comment on any of the videos over there if you feel so inclined. YouTube, definitely like and subscribe over there if you're listening. Let me know if there's any other audio platforms you'd like to hear the show on, or see any other platforms that I should be looking at. Thank you to all of my people on Threads. Posted a poll earlier before the show to see what the deal is. If people believe in the paranormal, let's go ahead and we will check out the results on that. And do you believe in the paranormal? Threads said 60% says yes, 20% says no, and a 20% said not sure. Huh. I guess I found my people. Because I definitely believe there's something out there. I was one of those weird kids that grew up watching the X-Files and Unsolved Mysteries for all of the spooky stuff that you can imagine. And I grew up to be a person that was still obsessed with those, but just had more time and the ability to learn more about it because I know how to actually research that stuff now. And that's how you end up talking to strangers on the internet about ghosts and UFOs and spooky stuff like that. Hopefully y'all enjoy it. Anyways, this has been Acadia After Dark. I'm your host, the Reverend Redbeard. I hope to see you all shortly after the American holiday of Thanksgiving. If you don't celebrate, I hope you get to eat some good food too. If you do celebrate, stay safe, enjoy. Have a good one. Again, like, subscribe. Thanks everybody for listening. Talk to you soon.